Chair Armour, I can confirm we are live.
Thank you, Crystal. Let's see, Lauren, and there comes Lorraine coming on right now. Perfect.
Hello.
John, hi, John.
All right.
There we go. I see Diane's just still with her camera off, but I think we'll move on. Oh, there she is. Welcome, everybody. It's our first meeting in 2022, and Happy New Year to everybody. I think we got an exciting year coming ahead of us. I see we do have quorum, so we'll call the meeting to order. I'm going to start off reading the land acknowledgement statement. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaty of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walk in the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. The clerks have already have movers and seconders. Has everybody had an opportunity to review that? And are you okay with these or any objections? Perfect. So it is moved by Councillor Schumacher and seconded by Lorraine Blondin. It is recommended that the Accessibility Committee meeting agenda dated January 25th, 2022 be adopted and printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Do we have any disclosures of pecuniary interest today? John?
Yes, with respect to section 5 site plans.
Okay, just as we're going to move that to section 6 now, but we'll bring that up then. And that way Director Herning can go ahead of those before we read the site plan. Thanks for that, John. So we'll move right along. We're moving to reports from municipal officers, and 4.1, we have accessibility mapping presentation by Margaret Steed. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Following your last meeting, I've been invited to share this interactive map with you. So I'll do share screen now. Should work. And just to confirm, you can see my screen with the Town of Huntsville website.
Yes. Great.
This map was created a number of years ago. It follows our Town of Huntsville interactive map that's on our website as well. It's mainly focused on planning uses, some public works uses, etc. So at that same time, I created this accessibilities features map. So that's what I'll show. You can navigate to it numerous ways on the Town of Huntsville website, huntsville.ca, under accessibility, or under the maps area as well. So for today, I'll go accessibility page. And there's a number of links, and the map is on the third link for features map. Talks a little bit about it there of what's included: audible pedestrian signals, boat parking, unique to Huntsville, and crosswalks, parking, playgrounds, etc. Our standard disclaimer, the gist of it is to highlight the parcel mapping is not survey accurate, and some other disclaimers for road use from Ministry of Natural Resources. So I thought I'd take an opportunity just to share some of the new highlights or new updates that have been done recently. At the last meeting, it was talked about parking in particular on Main Street. So following that and the construction of Streetscape, quite a new parking added, as well as various audible signals that may not have been part of Streetscape, but I was able to reach out to District of Muskoka and confirm a few new locations throughout town. So they've been added. We can zoom in here. This is the new crosswalk on Main Street. Parking at Town Hall at the front, parking at the back, and further along Main Street by the Terracin new building, the old Dominion building, right around there. To see some other features, we can turn on the air photos. So that is a base map gallery. The buttons on the top right have various functionality. Search, legend, layer list, which I'll go to, and this base map gallery, measuring, markup, information, and printing. There's a few different series of air photos. That's kind of part of our data package. So I've added all of them to this gallery area. So the air photo as a background for myself gives a good overview or perspective of where we are in town. You can see some of the buildings from a bird's eye view per se. The layer list is quite important. You're able to control what information layers can turn on and off. So that would be helpful in different circumstances of what you might be looking for. You can expand the layer lists by that small arrow, and all the individual layers will show up there. So another new feature, I was able to add what I've called hill area on Brunel Road from High Street down to Main Street. Of course, I've walked the area, and as I was able to watch your meeting from last month or prior to that, that was perhaps an area of concern or something I thought we could highlight. So I've outlined that there in red.
Excellent.
Two other things, the Moby mats, that was fairly new. And so I've added that to the locations on Hutchison Beach. So I'm just panning over and zooming over to Hutchison Beach area. And as you would know, it's Hutchison and Port Sydney. It does take a moment there. Most things were loading well yesterday, but so I've indicated that as a blue outline. Again, it's in Port Sydney as well. The playgrounds are there. There was a somewhat newer playground at Selkirk Drive, one of the subdivision developments in there. And as I mentioned earlier, quite a few audible signals. Again, District of Muskoka staff shared some information with me, and I was able to update that. Quite a few at our intersections. Parking is there as indicated. There we go. We have summer and winter. It just changes the labels that are displayed on each season. And I'll be working with Public Works a bit more. The tactile pads, which are the on the sidewalk surface of the textured surface there, to update some of those. They were going to confirm a couple more locations. This one is at the intersection Center and West Road, as this one indicates. So happy to answer any questions. I wanted to highlight a few of those features there. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Margaret. Great presentation. I really like this. This is really great, and it looks like it's very user-friendly. Does anybody have any questions for Margaret? Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Chair Armour. No, excellent, Margaret. I think that's great, and I'm happy to hear you got everything updated with district. I know sitting on the district committee, we do get sort of the updates of the audible signals. You had, I noticed, a little tab on alternate formats when you go into accessibility. What alternate formats? I mean, I'm understanding that certain websites designed before a certain time may not be able to do certain Audible formats and things. So I know trying to make sure that we are hopefully able to accommodate all the alternate formats that are available.
Yes, great question. This will open a link to request any alternate format. I believe it's a document we use throughout our website. In this regard for mapping, we've utilized it there as well as an available request within our mapping, as well as some of our dashboard features in our strategic plan as an example. Also in mapping, many years ago, I've also created a large font printout map of the downtown as well. I haven't done that in a number of years, but it's available. So when we receive any of these requests, we would be able to accommodate in that way. As you could imagine, each request would be so unique and would be able to accommodate what is unique to that specific need. The interactive mapping, I agree, it's very helpful in some regards, but in some regards it could pose a bit more of a challenge. So the mapping community, online mapping's very aware of that. They have some different tools and techniques that we can use when we're creating that. So we have to be very cautious and cognizant when we create these types of interactive online maps, as well as the paper maps.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just thinking someone with a vision impairment, there is the ability to do like description text, that kind of thing. So hopefully we're able to come to the 2025, recommendations as we move forward with those. And I understand that some of those formats are transferable to certain websites, but others aren't, depending on when your website was created.
Mm-hmm. Again, how we're able to build on these platforms is what it's called. Yeah, great point.
John, go ahead.
I think the maps are great. It really identifies all the parking and, identifies the accessible spots. And I was glad to see, you had this new thing about the hill, because I think last week it's something that came across my desk from Queensland, New Zealand. And they've identified all their streets based on the percentage of grade that are going in there. And what it is, and I'll send you a picture of it and you can obviously find it, but it's more of a triangle showing the grade. So when we look at the map where you're showing Burnell Road, we would have one grade reaching up to the peak, but then we would show the other grade coming down the other way. And, not only with, sitting on the accessibility committee, but with seniors as well, it would be helpful to take a look and see which streets aren't as steep as others. For example, when I was living on Florence, I would always walk down Florence Street, walk down Center Street, but always walk up Lorne Street because the grade wasn't bad on the walk up there. If you want, I'll send you that picture.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions? I just have not so much a question. The new walkway around Town Hall, were you able to identify that? I'm really sorry, I really didn't focus. I've seen all the parking spots, et cetera, like that, but I just wonder if that's something we could really highlight for those who park in that back parking lot.
Yes, most definitely. I have that on my to-do list. I'm going to incorporate that into our sidewalk data.
Right.
So we'll have this as a new one, as well as King Street, the change there to more of what I would define as a sidewalk. Yes, so I have that in my notes. I wanted to follow up with Public Works and our asset management. So I was about to do that. So that should be coming shortly.
Excellent, thank you.
That'll tie in nicely with the parking in the back.
Excellent. Right. I don't hear any other questions. All right, thank you, Margaret. It was great. And we look forward to seeing the updated map maybe later on this year when you get everything else out. It'd be great.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, so our next we have Greg Pilling here and Jason Fisher. They're here to talk about the hydration station, water filling station at Civic Square. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Chair Armour. It's through you, Chair Armour. It's a privilege to be here today, and my first presentation is the Accessible Advisory Committee, so I'm sorry it's taking me so long to get in front of you. But I'm here to talk about a great initiative that was presented to Council back in September of 2020. The Hub and the BIA made a presentation to donate a water station, hydration station. It's a water bottle filling station is the idea behind it. And after too much time has passed, and I'm finally in front of Accessible Advisory Committee to go over the units and the location that we have selected. So the unit was selected by the BIA and the Hub as they are paying for it, but of course we want to make sure that it meets accessibility standards. And unfortunately the unit is an American unit, so it doesn't have the compliances through Canadian legislation. And then the location, there's the first location they were looking to have the hydration station installed is on the Club 55 pathway because it's really close to the sidewalk. They wanted it to be well viewed. And then there is a backup location in case for any accessible reasons. We were looking also at the courtyard in the Civic Square, close to the box office of the Algonquin Theatre, kind of up closer to the building where it was a little more level ground. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at the presentation, and I do have some appendixes there that I'm more than happy to share a screen with if there's some particular questions that need to be discussed, but maybe I'll turn it over for any questions at this point.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions about this report? John, go ahead.
So where is the water filling station going if it's not going at those two locations? Or is that what the X was saying? They're not going there?
Through you, Chair Armour, the X is the exact location where the station would be installed. So the first option is that Club 55 pathway, and the X marks the spot. It was kind of my treasure map finding to kind of do that exactly. The X marks the spot. So the X is exactly where the station would be, give or take a couple of feet, to be honest with you, just the perspective of the picture, obviously. And sorry, I didn't get the picture done before the snow arrived.
Follow up?
Follow up, go ahead.
Were they aware of the water line at the new park where Kent Park used to be? The existing water line under the ground there?
Through your, Chair Armour, we've only been looking at the Civic Square Club 55 area for the purpose of this report and at the request of the BIA and the Hub. I do believe, and please forgive me, that I know that there's been discussions in the past about that location, but my understanding is that location has been put on hiatus for now, and we're just looking at the Civic Square area and the Club 55.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you through you, Chair Armour, and thank you guys for coming because I did want you guys to come and present here. So this has, just to give a bit of background, has been ongoing. We did have a presentation at council about the O Fountain that originally had been proposed, and due to some work with myself and Deb Kerwin and some negotiation, it was found that the O Fountain is really not that accessible. So we did go with looking at the LK models, and Deb had emailed the company themselves and, really did a bit of research around what makes a more accessible fountain. So that's sort of where we came up with the model that you're seeing today. And when the O Fountain, John, was originally presented, yes, the idea was to maybe have two, one at Kent Park and one maybe River Mill or one at Civic Square. The cost for these things we kind of narrowed it down to one. And then the idea being the Civic Square area is the most sort of central option at this point. So, and so that model that we picked, the LK one that you guys saw the picture with the bend, is very accessible for anyone with a wheelchair. It has the ability to sit if you have less function with your hands. And then now we're looking at which of the two spots, the Club 55 spot or Civic Square, would be the more accessible location. And that's sort of what Greg and Jason would like to hear from us as a committee today. Of the two places, where do we feel is sort of the most accessible? Is there a cost, I guess, Greg, between the difference between the two locations? Like tearing up Civic Square versus just putting something into the ground by Club 55?
Through you, Chair Armour. At this point, Councillor Schumacher, we don't have the full details of the expenses, but the unit price would be the same. Not much we know, but of course, but the installation most likely will be more expensive at the Club 55 location versus the one that's a little closer to the building. But we're still working through that with the contractor.
Okay, and then follow up, the
Go ahead.
Club 55 location looks like it's on a bit of a slant. Are we able to sort of make that a little more grade, reasonable, so that it is flatter for people to kind of sit in under it with a wheelchair when we put it there, if that's where we choose to go?
It's okay. I'm going to have Mr. Fisher answer that question.
Through your Chair Armour. I've also spoke to another contractor that's working with the plumbing contractor. They don't foresee any type of issue of accommodating that space around the unit to provide that level of service. They have identified that the other area would obviously be a little flatter and more convenient, but we pick whatever spot we want. So, yeah.
So, Lorraine, do you have a question? Go ahead.
It's just a follow-up to actually what Dion said. I don't have a preference one way over the other. The only issue for me would be which one is flatter. And
Okay.
if they can both be made flat, then I would just go with whatever other people feel like. For me, it's just, what is the grade to get to that spot? How difficult is it to get to the Club 55? And I can't really go and look at it right now with the snow. So, I don't know personally how different it is. I know what the main square is, but I just don't know that spot. And with the snow right now, I'm not about to go and trample around and try and figure out if the ground is flat or if it's just snowbank.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure when the install would take place, would they not grade it level so it's easy access and not ramp? But certainly. John, did I see you have your question? Go ahead.
Was thinking about Club 55, and there's the washrooms under the stairs there, right? So they'd be tying into that water line there. But then I got thinking, and with the location in front of the doors of the town hall, I think you'd see it coming up and down Main Street better because it's more out in the open for people to see as opposed to tucked behind the wall there. And that's just my opinion, but it sounds like it's a great idea, and it'll get done this year.
Yeah, excellent. Crystal, go ahead.
Thank you. There is a recommendation with this report. So if you're able to read that, just to see if committees are kind of all on the same page, because there is a recommendation for the location. We can absolutely do a motion to amend if the location, if committee would like to change the location. And I'm happy to pull it up if that would make things easier as well, Chair Armour.
I do have it here, but if you could pull up for everybody else to see. I think one thing too, it comes in multiple colors also, I believe, right? Did you have a color you're thinking of yet, Greg?
Not at this point. I think the darker model was the one that, as you've seen in the appendix there, was the one they were going with. I know there was a lot of talk about the blue one with the O station, but I don't know if we've given a final color selection on that yet, because there are a few options.
Perfect. Okay. So I do have a recommendation here, and here it is up on the screen. So moved by John Gallagher, seconded by Kay Leslie. It's recommended that committee support the hydration station model LK 4410 BFF-RK and the location of the hydration station on the Club 55 pathway as outlined in report CS 2022-3. Lorraine, go ahead. You're still on mute, Lorraine.
I'm not sure exactly what the procedure is, but can we add that we would also support the other location if council felt that was okay? Or does it matter?
I believe that's an option that we could approve both locations based on council's recommendation. And I think also at the same time, it's going to depend on what they find under the ground, because you never know, they might dig in that one spot and find a huge boulder under there and decide they have to change the location after that. So go ahead, committee member Gallagher.
Just through you, I'm happy with either location. Again, I think it all comes down to when they're doing the installation, what's going to be most cost effective. But I don't know, I'm still leaning towards the main entrance because there is a lot more traffic that comes through there than over at the Club 55 door. And it is flat out there. People wait outside, go out there for shows and stuff. So it might get people using it more often.
Mm-hmm. And Councillor Schumacher.
I was gonna say, Greg, can you show the pictures again too? Because I think the Club 55 one is actually more out by the sidewalk, if I remember correctly. And the Civic Square one is actually more around beside the door, which I don't know how close to the door it is. Is that the traffic gonna be an issue with coming and going?
Happy to. Give me 1 second here.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I like the evergreen, but
Yeah, well, we definitely don't want to affect that. That's for sure. That'll be part of the consideration. So I don't know if you can all see that. The idea from the hub and the BIA was that here's the line right where our regular sidewalk is. The road's not too far over here. So this location is actually much closer to the sidewalk was the idea behind what the BIA and the hub saw. So it's not actually going to be tucked away. It's going to be right close to the sidewalk. I would imagine you're looking at, and I'll ask Jason Fisher to comment if he has another perspective on it, but you're probably about 4 feet from the sidewalk. So the idea behind what the hub and the BIA wanted to see was they wanted to see it right close to the sidewalk so that people saw it as they were walking by, as opposed to tucked up by the building, which I could show you here in Appendix 3. Which obviously I was able to find a picture online. That is not my camera, but the idea was it would be right up here by where the little book library is right there. So very accessible, very flat, but it's so far tucked into the building that the hub and the BIA were worried that people walking by would miss it unless they were actually going into the Civic Square area. That was where their idea came from. But both definitely on the table there. And I don't know if this is pertinent for me to jump in right now in case there is a preference on color. I'd be happy to make a recommendation from the accessible advisory committee,
I like the evergreen or the blue.
because there's quite an array there. I didn't get that far into the selection process there, Councillor Armour, but I'd be happy to listen and make some recommendations with the BIA and how.
No, I was just curious of whether someone had brought up that color. That's all.
Blue's the only one I ever heard so far, and it was all through the O station. So probably leaning towards blue, a nice Huntsville blue.
John,
yeah.
do you have
I was just gonna, sorry, I have a follow-up. Yeah, is that area does look like it has a bit of a grade to it. So if we could level it a little, I think that area makes more sense because it is accessible by Club 55. But even I think the Civic Square has a little bit of a grade to it, even as you go in towards the building, right? So we live in Huntsville. That's the sad part, is there is grades everywhere.
And through you, Chair Armour, to Councillor Schumacher, as Jason had mentioned, I think that would be part of our requirements. Oh, thanks for unsharing my screen. I appreciate that, Crystal. I think that would be the requirement that we'll most definitely follow, is to ensure that that is an accessible flat area during the install stage.
Okay. Committee Member Gallagher, that's it. Yeah, John, go ahead.
Yes, just a final comment. Now that I see the location out by the sidewalk there, I'm supportive of the Club 55 location. I think more people are going to see it there. They're going to use it. And as long as we can get a nice flat area around it to deal with the issues that we're dealing with, the grades, then I'm all for that resolution the way it stands. And the color blue I like.
Yeah, I agree that that might be a better location, only because it might be less destructive to the walkway going into the Civic Center right now with that interlocking brick. So I think that's a great. So does Lorraine, go ahead.
No.
You're on mute. Oh. Laurel, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Just could part of the motion be that it was on level ground, like graded so that it was flat?
I imagine so.
Would that not fall under our AODA standards to some extent, that we have to make that?
I would say,
accessible?
yeah.
Yeah.
It probably has to be a certain diameter and size around the outside of it and in front of it and
Absolutely.
and level. Yeah.
Laurel, it will be a given. I'm going to tell you
All right.
that right now.
All right, I'll hold you
All
to
right.
it.
You can. Because I'll hold Jason accountable.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay. So do you does everybody want to read the motion again, or is there amendment to it? Is it a good way it is? Okay. So all those in favor of the motion? The recommendation, and that carries. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Greg.
you.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to skip ahead right to new business with this. This is the on the agenda. It's actually number 6.1 to follow up on the transit, but we're going to move it ahead, and Director Hernan's here to speak to that.
Thank you, Chair Armour and Councillor Schumacher and committee members. It's good to be here today to talk about the whole transit system again, and I've got no preconceived concepts or recommendations. And I think what we're looking for from the discussion with council last time, we did take a report back to council answering some questions, and Chair Armour indicated that this committee wanted to weigh in on it, which I think is fabulous. So I know you've been given a lot of information to read and review. The whole transit study, a very lengthy document, a lot of pluses and minuses in it. And I should have noted when that was sent out, and I apologize for not doing it, some of the costing that they put into that report is in fact incorrect. And that's what started some of the confusion with it when council started to look at implementing some of this, and they gave the green light to, and we went to do it. We quickly realized that the numbers that the consultant used were wrong and the cost was much higher. And that put us into sort of a tailspin trying to figure out what is the best solution. The best solution for the riders, the best solution for the taxpayers, for everyone. So lots of issues, and I'm kind of hoping maybe we can have a discussion more than anything as to what's important to this committee, because that would help focus council, if you will, and certainly help staff. We can put up options till we're blue in the face, and I've got spreadsheets I can share with you, and we can look at everything. The issues that we've looked at or what the report really speaks to, there's 6 or 7. Obviously, the matched hours between the regular service and the modified service, we call it modified because it's not specialized, because specialized has to match exactly. And right now we don't match the hours exactly, so it's called the modified service. So the whole issue of should the 2 buses match hours, I certainly understand the concept in it. And why we'd want that. But the ridership, and I'm just going to do some commentary as I go through, the ridership on that modified or specialized transit is going places. It's going shopping. It's going to the mall. It's going to doctor's appointments. And through past experience and ridership history, we're not seeing riders looking for that bus at 8 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock, it's busy. Everybody's on the go and it has to be or want to be somewhere. So we could expand the hours to match, and we could have specialized transit starting its shift at 8 in the morning like the other bus and running till 6 at night. But traditionally, we're not seeing that. And there again, because a lot of the people that take the specialized are using it to get to appointments. We're just not seeing appointments later in the evenings and on Saturdays. And that's why we haven't matched the hours. And on Saturdays, we use a combined service. It's not the best of either service. It's the regular bus trying to accommodate special requests as they come through to get everybody where they want to go. So that's the one issue. Should we match the hours of service? The whole issue, which I really think clouded this report, was the expanded service areas. When we were talking about expanding out to Hidden Valley, up to Novar, and down to Port Sydney, I'm certainly not saying that those services don't require some sort of transit, but it really gets complicated because there again, if we start to offer regular service to Novar, Hidden Valley, and Port Sydney, then our modified service has to match that service area. So now we're taking one specialized or modified transit bus, and when we're really going to run that to the max, and we feel that it'll actually decrease the service levels that we're providing now in town. So that was the whole issue, and then we kept trying to ask ourselves, who are we trying to service by going to Hidden Valley and Deerhurst? And we know the request originally came in from some of the resorts. We've tried to engage those resorts in discussions about changing their shift patterns with their staff to try and meet some scheduling, and we've never gotten anywhere on that. So we're really wondering, if we just do this, is anybody really going to ride this bus? And I know there's some that'll subscribe to the fact that if you build it, they will come, but I'm not too sure I would recommend that to council. I mean, if Councilor Armour and Councilor Schumacher want to take that approach, they're more than welcome to. This whole issue about the 1 hour loop, 1 hour loop versus 2 hour loops. And people are right. If you get on the bus at Bickley Ford and you want to ride back to Bickley Ford, it's going to take you 2 hours to get there. But the ridership there, the way our system is, we've basically looked at all the records, and the average ride is 20 minutes. So if you want to get on a Bickley Ford and you want to go to the downtown area, it's basically a 20-minute ride. And the majority of our riders are on that bus for 20 minutes. You're right that it takes 2 hours to hit the same stop twice when you're going out into the outside area. So I use that as an example again. If you get on down by Bickley Ford, the west end of Huntsville, and you want to go to the west end of Huntsville again, it's going to take you 2 hours to get back there. But if you want to just ride from your house back to your house, maybe you just want to go for a 2 hour ride. I don't know. So that whole discussion about how do we make it a 1 hour ride? I know the Bracebridge system is, a lot of people point out to us that it does a 1 hour loop. Well, it actually doesn't. It's close to an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on traffic. And the beauty of Bracebridge is it's set up in such a way that it can do a loop. It can start at the Pines, it can work its way down to the Canadian Tire store, it can cut across the Wellington Street and come back up their Main Street. The way Huntsville's designed with the Center Street Bridge and the Main Street Bridge, we've got to be going back and forth. We don't have that beauty of doing a big circle. And we're trying to service an area which is more of a cross, if you will. We're trying to pick up the residential people in the west end of Huntsville. We're trying to get them all the way out to the hospital. And when you look north and south, we're trying to cover all the way from Walmart back out to 100 Burnell Road, which is more residential area, and all the stops in between. So we're a giant plus sign. So there's no way we can make this circle work. It just doesn't work because we're trying to get people to the downtown core as well in the center of it. The whole discussion about expanding the service hours in general, expanding it, we don't run Sundays right now, expanding it to include Sundays, expanding the transit to run till 11 o'clock at night. That whole discussion has been mixed into this, which there again gets very costly and complicated. The dial-a-ride keeps coming up. A lot of people point to the Innisfil project. They did a dial-a-ride very, very much with an Uber service. It was a huge success story when they put it in the market. So much so that they had to get rid of it, and they've now got regular transit buses. So they were touting the fact that it was a much more affordable way to do it and provide the service. And it became so successful that they had to go into a full busing service now, and their budgets have just gone crazy on that one. So they've actually gotten out of a lot of that and gone to a busing service. we could certainly implement a dial-a-ride, but there again, where do we start and where do we stop? And what service area are we trying to cover? And how do you even cost that? But that's staff's problem to try and figure that out with council. But if we wanted a dial-a-ride, we could look at a dial-a-ride. The whole electronic bus fare system has been talked about. And I think that's more of a convenience for riders. I don't think we should maybe get bogged down on that today. It really doesn't do anything for the service. But I think what really needs to have the discussion, and I don't know how we lead it or get there, and we look to this committee to provide some input, is to what's real important to this committee. And then I can talk about the pluses, the minuses from what staff's looked at. We can talk about costing if you want, and we can try and figure out what would make sense for council to try and provide some guidance to council as to what this committee would like to see happen with transit. The one other one I didn't talk about, we should just touch base on, is the bus stops. I know there's some people that are quite adamant that we need fixed bus stops. The system that we run now is basically called Flag-a-Ride. Our bus runs a route, and if you wave it down, it will stop anywhere. And in that report that many people have pointed out to me, it says you should have bus stops. It does. And it also says in that report that if you put fixed bus stops in, you should stop dial-a-ride. And we have so many people that enjoy the dial-a-ride because they know basically where the bus is coming. Those regular transit units, private users, they know it's coming up over Florence Street. They don't have to walk to the corner to get it. They don't have to walk to the library or anywhere else. They just have to stand at the side of the road and wave when the bus driver comes along, and the bus driver will pick them up. So if this committee feels that bus stops are a major issue as an example, and yes, we want them, we want the glass shelters, that could be a recommendation to council. But I do point out that it would have its downside, because then we would make people use them, and now we're forcing everybody to walk some distance to catch the bus. So lots of considerations all the way around. I wish I had the magic answer. I know costing always comes down to what does it cost? Council has to look at that, and I can share some sheets with you. I can tell you we receive approximately $130,000 of tax supported cost right now to operate the transit service. The revenue numbers that come in off transit are extremely low and shouldn't be factored into this. We only receive about $30,000 a year on a good year. These are all pre-COVID numbers, because once COVID hit in the last 2 years, our numbers have been all over the place. Ridership dropped. We knew that because the library was closed, because the Summit Center was closed. It's obviously ridership has dropped. You know, the public was told to stay home. So we can't look at the last 2 years numbers. Anytime we're looking at numbers, we got to go back in and look at the 18-19 numbers and try and base things off that. Because if we tried to justify anything off the last 2 years, we'd lose. Nothing would make any sense at all. So I don't know, Chair Armour, if you want me to pull maps up. I don't know if we want to try and have a discussion as to what's important to this group. I'm at your disposal.
That's a really good question, Steve. I hope this committee can answer that one. Does anybody have any follow-up after that for Steve? Committee member Lupton, welcome.
Yeah, I've just like for our population here at Community Living People with Disabilities, the one thing that they were looking for, and again, this was all pre-COVID, was the extending of the hours, because they can't go downtown for dinner and a movie or something and then get back home, right? So that was a big issue for our population.
Can I just, with your permission, Chair Armour, maybe create some discussion as some of this comes up?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Diane, when you talk the extended hours, are you talking Monday to Friday in the evening? Are we talking Saturday? Are we talking expanded service to Sundays? What?
I mean, the evenings were the biggest issue, I think, like, and they weren't specifically, you know, Monday to Friday. It could be like Friday, Saturday even. Yeah, it's definitely the evenings. They felt like they couldn't go out in the evenings because they didn't have transportation other than paying for taxi.
Okay, thank you.
Committee member Gallagher.
On the report there on page 2, it has B. It speaks about the expansion of the regular service areas to sort of pick up these new affordable housing apartments. And it says there's no no additional buses are proposed, so there would be no additional cost to incorporate this change. I think that's pretty important when we look at who's using and who may potentially use it, because once we provide the bus to an area, you know, it's one thing to say we could bring it up to Settlers Ridge, but how many people in Settlers Ridge are going to take the bus to town, whereas people that may be on a fixed income would be more apt to use it, which could bring ridership up, which would allow for some of these other items to occur.
Very good point.
A
Go ahead.
great point. Maybe just so everybody's familiar, is everybody familiar with what John was talking about, the expanded route? Maybe I can just share a map.
That'd be great.
So what we looked at, John, up in here, it doesn't show it on this map, but this is where the new condominiums and the new medical buildings have been built off Campus Trail. Right now, the bus is basically stopping by the old Maynard Stop and Shop, Hibbard Road. We're just not finding any riders up here at all right now. Very few riders. So what we looked at here is that we can swing up through here where the condominiums are being built, and Greystone, I think, is in the process of building 3 more buildings right in here right now. We figured that we can whip up through here to Earls Road, across Chaffee Township Road. There is a new affordable housing project going in on the hill. I think it's 100 and some units eventually is going to be built. Coming out towards Highway 60, where we'd be able to make a stop at the new apartment building being built, another 83 units, and then back in on its route. So we looked at that, and that's a change that, yes, we'd be recommending to council. That can be done, and we were looking for a springtime start once the occupancy start in these buildings. That can be done at no cost to the council right now with no changes. But I say no changes, we would eliminate this whole top run up here by Woodstream, but we're just not finding any riders coming out of that area. I'm sure somebody would be upset by that, but if we tried to keep that in and extended all this, then that 2-hour loop could really become a 2-hour and 20-minute loop. But you're correct. That is one change we can make right away with very little effect on the system at all. And it would be positive for the ridership in this area.
Very good. Committee member Shaw, go ahead.
So talking about bus stops. Now, the map is kind of divided into bus stops, is it not, so that you know when the bus is coming to which stop?
So you're thinking the signage that was on the stops that told you when the bus would be there, correct?
Or yes, yeah. Or
Yeah.
when, and you know, when we used to get the little book that told, you know, that had a picture of the things that would tell you. So how is someone supposed to know within this 2-hour period when the bus is supposed to come? If you're just standing at the end of your driveway or whatever, like you
So-
just get to know that?
The people that are using it get to know. So they know that it's at the Legion Manor in the west end of Huntsville at 11 o'clock, and they know by the route that it's heading up Florence Street, and it'll be at the library at 11:05. The people that stand on Florence Street and wait for the bus, they know the route it's coming, and they just know that, okay, the bus will be coming along in approximately 8:03 or 11:03. They get to know it. You are correct that you know, if you're not stopping at a scheduled stop, one of our scheduled, you're getting on somewhere, you have to understand how the system runs.
So say if you're new to town, like you'd have to kind of figure that out, I guess, look out your front window for a few days and see if when it went by or something. Like it just kind of takes away some of the, how do we manage the system part?
So we still have bus stops. We don't have glass shelters though. So we
Right.
still say that we're going to be at the Legion Manor at 11 a.m. So people could walk to the Legion Manor. There is a bus sign there that says bus stop. They could stand there and they could get on at 11 a.m. We're saying if you live a half a block up and you happen to know the bus route because you've looked at the map, and once you get used to the system, rather than walk half a block to the Legion Manor, stand at the end of your driveway at 11 a.m. and flag it down when it comes by.
So are all the stops accessible then? Like say someone in a wheelchair, you might not see someone in a wheelchair at the end of the driveway in the wintertime, right?
So in fact, by allowing us to flag them, a wheelchair can get on anywhere it can.
Right.
You know, I won't say there's not always a curb, but there's a driveway. There's somewhere that somebody in a wheelchair or with a mobility device can move to and flag it down. If we went to fixed stops locations and we think that they're all accessible, we would have to make sure that they all had the curb drops and everything else that's required. But the beauty of our system right now is if there's a huge snowbank there because of some reason, somebody dumped snow where they shouldn't have, we can quickly move. And we do move to accommodate people. We are a small ridership. We're a small system, so we do everything in our power, and our bus drivers are great. The two regular drivers, they know everybody's schedule better than anyone does, and they know when to look for Mrs. Jones because they know that she goes out on Wednesdays. It is a small system like that. So I don't know if I've answered your question or not, but the beauty is you can get on anywhere. So.
Right. The other comment I've heard about the extended hours, and I don't know, I'm sure there wouldn't be a lot of people who would use it, but people aren't able to go to things like maybe their kids' graduation at the high school or perhaps a hockey game at the Summit Center. Like they can't get, unless you can be home, unless you're going to be home by 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever it is, you can't go unless you can afford a taxi, I guess. So that's the other challenge.
And I certainly, I hear that, and I agree exactly what you're saying. Yes.
The other question I had is that in Doppler this week, they were talking about a taxi company out on Chapey Township Road, I think. Do we have a third taxi company in town now?
No.
No.
That is one of the existing operators that's moved.
Yeah.
From the West End to there? Because I was just thinking, is that person, if there's a third one, would they perhaps have I know because accessible taxis are an issue as well, right?
Right. So that's a current operator that just moved the dispatch center to a different area.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Committee member Leslie. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Armour. And I guess my point regarding the flag down bus situation, and I'm pretty new to the area, so I'm still a little puzzled. Being blind would be a little tricky to flag down a bus unless you sort of knew, I think, what time it would be coming by and just sort of kept your arm up, or you know, the driver would get to know you. I know that I attempted to take a bus a good year and a half ago, and I asked, called the transit and said, do you stop at Chartwell at the bottom of the hill on Legacy? And they said yes. So I found the time and I went down and waited 20 minutes and finally came home. There was no bus, and they said, oh no, if you're going to be there, you have to phone us and tell us. And I just did not understand. Like, I thought, well, if that's a stop, then that's a stop, right? But I guess it's only a stop if you call in ahead and let someone know that you would be there. So do you think it's the case that some stops are kind of without question, a bus would stop there, whether someone phoned in ahead or not? I'm still a little puzzled about how it works, to be honest.
So, I certainly understand your issue with Chartwell, and I think we've corrected that on the mapping, but yes. So the main stops, the hospital, the Walmart, the library, the Summit Center, the bus pulls in and stops. It's stopping to look for people. It's stopping to give them a chance to get out of the vestibule if they're at the independent grocers. It's having a look to see what's happening. There's lots of stops that it basically pulls up, rolls, and has a look around and keeps moving if it's behind schedule. So out in the west end of Huntsville, when it pulls into where it starts, it can see 100 yards in any direction. If they don't see anybody standing there, and if there's nobody saying, I want to get off here, they keep moving. They keep moving. And I appreciate your comment, Kay, about sight. You'd have a hard time flagging a bus down. You certainly would, and I understand that. But the beauty of our little system is we could get you the phone number and you could simply call the bus driver and say, hi, it's Kay Leslie. I'm going to flag you down. I'm on, Center Street at the corner, but I can't see you. So when you see me standing there, stop. And I know either one of our drivers would make a point of stopping whoever is in the bus that day to assist you with getting on. So that's the beauty of small town. That's the beauty of a small system. We can certainly work with people to make sure that they can get a ride when they need a ride.
And that would be great, actually. And I agree. I think that if they didn't mind being phoned, I think that would be a great solution there. So yeah. And I guess for, some seniors and maybe people with small children or whatever, they may need a shelter from time to time to sit down and wait. I'm guessing just perhaps not the majority, but some perhaps would, or, to be out of the weather a little bit. Yeah.
And that's some of the stuff that I guess we're really hoping to get some feedback. So if there's a spot that you're hearing that, whenever we stand in the west end of Huntsville, the wind comes off that lake and there's nowhere to stand inside and we're cold, we could put a bus shelter in. We could put a bus stop in.
Mhm.
Nothing says we have to buy 50 of them if we only need 3 or 4 to help supplement or fix the system up. And that's the sort of input that we're looking for. Is to what would make this a better system for the ridership and affordable for the town of Huntsville. Because if we shove too much costs on transit, the cost of transit goes up and then the ridership drops and it defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I hear you.
Committee Member Gallagher.
I've raised the issue before, and there's quite a few apps out there that do GPS trackings of buses. And, we have Margaret's expertise in the mapping department at the town of Huntsville. Is that something that could be explored? Because again, when you know where the bus is on the route, it's pretty easy to walk out your front door and be there to meet the bus on time, as opposed to sitting there waiting for 15 minutes at the bus shelter.
Great point, John. So we actually have council approval to purchase a system. On our bus now, we have the automatic annunciating program too, that tells you when you're coming up to a stop and where you are. The one problem we have in our system is the systems like you're talking, like Bracebridge runs, doesn't talk to our existing system. So we had permission from council to spend $9,000 on a program that would deal with that and would deal with the electronic transfers and all that sort of information. Only we quickly realized that the systems we have in place today are of such an age and style that it won't talk with the new systems. So we're sort of hoping that the company will get a fix on that. It's gotten lost in the COVID time period, but we actually do have modernization funding from council approved. It was $9,500 to implement that system. We just can't find 2 systems that can talk to our existing system, but we're trying to solve that technology problem. So you can pull up your phone app and look at it and see where the bus is. Because you're right, with GPSing, we can see where the plows are. It should be a simple system that we can tie in, but I'm not a computer guru, but I can just tell you they got 2 systems that won't talk to each other right now.
Good point. Commissioner Blondin, did I see you had your hand up?
Yes, I'm just curious. I'm sure you've done the research through all the studies and stuff, but do the high school students use the bus very much? Like, because those would be set times of the day, and where you might get a group of them that do go out to Hidden Valley or to some of the other places you mentioned on the extended route. I just wondered if having transit a couple of times a day versus every 2 hours to those extended places might help, or like around the shift time that they do change shifts at Hidden Valley Resort and Deerhurst, as well as this high school student coming out this way.
So to answer your question, and please, I'm not trying to offend anybody, so please don't take it that way. We don't have really accurate demographics of who rides the bus. So we can't tell you that 100% that's 50% are male and 50% are female, and this is the age brackets. But we have studied the ridership and spoken extensively with the drivers, and we see where we're dropping people off. And our history has shown us the majority of our riders are seniors, economically challenged people, and community living. That seems to be the market that we're servicing. I won't say high school kids won't be on the bus today. You could see them, but they're not a major rider group that we've identified. We've identified the three other groups. People coming from some of the social housing programs in town, trying to get to town to work wherever. A lot of senior citizens riding on the bus between 10 and 3 every day, and community living is using the bus on a regular basis. That's the three groups that we see. And there again, I don't mean to offend anybody, but if you live out Muskoka 3 at one of those $1 million homes, you're not fitting any of the niche groups that we're seeing, and hence the reason we're not picking up any riders out there. It's just common sense that tells you that. It's the market that we're servicing doesn't live there. So we're not seeing a lot of people trying to ride the bus to get to work from Hidden Valley, but we're not running Hidden Valley anymore. Years ago, they did that. We have had discussions with some of the industrial plants. Councillor Armour put me in touch with MBRP that was trying to find transit for their employees, but we just didn't have anything that would schedule and would work with that. So those are the three groups that we're seeing. Those are the three groups we're trying to service, and you know, and I'll be honest with you, there's people that'll argue with me and say if we change the whole thing, we'll find that we're going to get a fourth group riding in it. We very much could, but that's not what we're seeing today.
Thanks for that. I'm familiar with the signs. I'm just curious, do we list the phone number of the bus station on the signs?
So we have just changed all the signs.
Okay.
We had to do something because we had times on them, and with COVID and with things opening and closing, it was changing on such a regular basis, we couldn't keep up with it. So now our signs have got the Town of Huntsville website on it, and it's got the, I just lost it, the QR code.
Yeah.
That you hold your phone up. And when you hold your phone up to it, or your device up to it, it automatically brings up the transit bus routes, the times, you're linked directly to the page. Because I'll be honest, if you go onto the Town of Huntsville website and try and find transit, it might take you a few minutes to find there. I find our page clumsy, so we tried to find a quicker way to take people there. Now, if there's an adjustment to the bus, if the bus gets canceled tomorrow because of a snow day, not that we do that, but if it did, we can put that on the website immediately. So when you put your phone up to the QR code, a notice would come up right away to say bus service today canceled, or restricted for COVID or whatever it might be. But we're trying to make it easier by linking to the website, with the anticipation that soon we hope to be able to put a system in place like John Gallagher spoke about, where you can have immediate information and see the buses on a phone.
Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Armour, to Steve, and I may be jumping ahead to council updates, Crystal, I apologize. But we did have a report about memorial benches last night at council. Could that be an option too, that if somebody were looking at pricing out those, if that's, because I know we have expanded it to beyond parks to maybe cemeteries, if somebody did want to do a memorial bench to a bus stop, would we accept that as an option?
I would imagine that would have to come through council, and I wouldn't see it being an issue, I guess, if it's not blocking and hindering traffic, et cetera, and it's a designated bus stop, for sure.
Yeah, so
My
then
opinion.
there would be one that could possibly have a potential to be paid for and have a place for a senior to sit down.
Yes.
Right. So I've been listening and taking a few notes here, and I was trying to figure out what our top 5 items are, and that maybe we could put a motion on the floor to take to council. That and I don't know if anybody can correct me if I think extended hours is one thing I heard loud and clear, if possible. I think people like the dial-a-ride aspect of it. It's a good thing. Looking at the, maybe more of the Flagger ride, that seems to be maybe having the phone number available for those people who wish to call and say, can you pick me up at such and such? I guess that's part of the dial ride. And then bus stops, I guess, after that. I don't think that really we can play with the 2-hour loop. It seems to be that's what it is. And I think John brought up the fact that making sure we hit the low income housing areas, changing that bus route into that area. I don't know if anybody else has anything that they caught there that I may have missed. Committee Member Shaw?
Just perhaps somehow a method of communication about all this to people, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know you can just stand at the end of your driveway and wave a bus down. Like, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I think with Grey Coach you used to be able to do that on the highway or something, but just how do people know this? And a lot of the people that you're serving, the 3 groups you're serving, are probably the least likely to have a cell phone that they can hold up to a QR code as well, right? So that's challenges. So there has to be some other way to get people to know, or something. Even that little paper we get now on whatever day of the week we get it, Thursdays, even if there was an ad in that or something for people who don't have computer access or aren't in whatever. If you're not going to have bus stops where you can count on a bus coming every certain time, then you kind of need to know what the other options are. And
Right.
as we just explained to Kay, like, how do people know that?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Director.
so a great point. And I actually made some notes while you were mentioning some of your stuff. So when you talk dial-a-ride, you're talking about being able to call the bus and tell them where you are. You're not talking about
Okay.
calling up on a Tuesday and order a bus. You're talking about being able to communicate with the bus driver.
Yes, like that's why I asked if it was on the signs already. So if you're standing at the sign and it's a bus sign, you could dial the number and say, I'm at this location, Beckley Country Drive. Do you have what time the bus will be here or something?
So I lumped dial-a-ride, help, information, communication, and then behind it, I put a marketing plan. And what I'm hearing is that we need a better plan to tell the people how the system works, where they can get the information, how they can contact people for help. And I don't want to paraphrase if that's not where you're going with that, but I sort of lumped a whole whack of things together, hearing that we need to do a much better job of explaining how the system works and how they can access help, how they can figure out the times, how they can get a brochure to show them when and where the bus is coming. Would that be a correct one?
Yeah, from my opinion, yes. I think you've lumped it all perfectly. But I think that's one of the biggest issues that we hear from our transit is that people don't know when the bus is going to be where it's going to be. So,
Okay. And if I can just jump in too, you
Absolutely.
said extended hours. Okay. And I'm gonna push you on this one. I'm push you to try and get more information. Are we talking extending the hours of the modified transit to match the regular? Because right now it's a shorter day for modified. Are we talking extending the hours of either service or both services to later in the days? Like maybe going to 8 o'clock at night? Or are we talking about extending the service to include Sundays? So I hear you when you say extending, and I'm sorry for dumping it back on you, but just so I can explain a little better to council and put some numbers together, where do you think the need for extended service is? What would you like to see increased?
Committee Member Lupton, I think she can have this.
Yeah, I think like I'd like to see it extending into the evenings for sure. That would be kind of my first option. I mean, ask for the stars. I mean, I'm sure they would like to be able to go places on Sundays as well. We have many people who go to church, right? So, but definitely the evenings would be the priority for me, I think.
And if I could, sorry for jumping in, I'm going to put you on the spot now, Diane. What time would you extend it to? You got the magic wand. What time would you run it to?
I would say 10 o'clock. I mean, most hockey games end at 10. Theater productions are usually over around 10. Like if you're going to a 9 o'clock movie, I mean, we don't have a movie theater, so maybe that one doesn't count anymore. But yeah, like maybe 10 would be the magic number.
Okay, and I'm gonna push one more time. I'm gonna try my limit here. Every day of the week, you mentioned some great things, theater and hockey games. Those traditionally, correct me if I'm wrong, they're Friday, Saturdays.
Yeah, so I would say Thursday, Friday, Saturdays are probably the most popular nights. There's karaoke on Thursday nights, typically at the pub, that kind of stuff.
Excellent, thank you.
Committee Member Shaw.
I wonder, could it ever be on a thing where a dial-a-ride sort of thing too, so that if something's coming up, like there might perhaps be a mom and a couple of kids who wanted to go to swimming lessons for an 8-week period, which was after dinner, but that's the only time they needed it? Like, is there ever, you know, that sort of thing as well? Because it might not be every night of the week for the rest of their life, but it might be or you want to go to a certain game or a certain show. But some people just can't go because they aren't able to get there, aren't able to get home.
Mm-hmm.
So it certainly could be done. The hard part is staffing that. So if we know that we're going to extend the bus every Friday night till 10 o'clock, we can staff it, we can coordinate for it. If we just went to a dial-a-ride type program, that becomes the real issue, because you could have nobody riding one night, and the next night you could have 50 people that want to go to the theater that's all calling at the same time. And you know that you will never accommodate that sort of number. That's the problem with the dial-a-ride. It's just so unpredictable. All of a sudden it's snowing, nobody wants to take their own car. You can't keep up with demand. Not saying it can't be done. It's just, it's very difficult to put a plan in place.
Could you, just a thought with dial-a-ride, could you put that down for certain hours, like dial-a-ride between 10 and 5 or something like that?
We certainly could.
Restrict, so they're not calling for 10 o'clock at night to have someone pick up a group of people going out partying, for example.
There
Just a
again,
thought.
Chair Armour, we can do anything council's willing to pay for.
Laurel, did you have a follow-up there?
Yeah, I wonder if it could even be that people could, if there was a night or 2 nights a week that that service was extended, that people could plan their swimming lessons or their night out or their theater night or whatever for those nights when the bus does run longer.
And a great question. I'm almost going to put Councillor Schumacher on the spot here with community services. I wonder what night they're busy for things like that. I wonder if we knew that the bus service was going to be extended on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, could they accommodate some scheduling over there?
I mean, I was thinking that myself. Again, it's difficult right now looking at their, like, pre-COVID. Yeah, there were probably specific nights that they had, like, I'm trying to think of like Aquafit and stuff. I remember being like Tuesdays and Thursday nights or something like that. But I mean, now it's by appointment only anyway. I mean, not right now. After January 31st, it'll be appointment only. And I mean, we weren't even running the track past 4 o'clock really, even during COVID right now. So, but I think there is potential for that type of thing, that if, and again, obviously the hockey games are the Friday. I would agree with that, should be the option. I think actually, Diane, the karaoke pub night might have been Wednesdays, if I remember correctly. And a lot of individuals would go to that. A lot of people go out on the Wednesday night. Before, when we did have a movie theater, Tuesday night was the cheap night. So a lot of people would go on the Tuesday night when it was cheaper and more affordable, right? So again, you're going to have different things, different nights. It all depends on who's doing what, right? So, but yeah, I think I remember a lot of the Aquafit were like Tuesdays and Thursday nights, that type of thing. So, I mean, and who knows, future wise, community services, we'd like to be offering more when the ability to open up offers us more. But I do like maybe picking a few extended hours for now, especially the Friday nights. Most people, if you're going to go out for dinner, are probably the Friday night, maybe Saturday night kind of thing is when if I remember, like Algonquin Theater, a lot of those events are going to be those nights, unless it's a show like the Rotary plays that would run for a 2-week stint, right? So, and maybe that's us knowing ahead of time too, that Rotary is going to be doing their plays for these 2 weeks. Would we consider extending some hours for those particular 2 weeks? I don't know.
Yeah, I like the idea of targeting a couple of nights at first, just to see how it plays out, like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even a Friday, Saturday night to begin with, just to see what the ridership's like, and see if it'll take a while for the word to get out there to people. But you know, I think we've been locked in our homes long enough now, and if we can get people out a little bit more coming soon, maybe that'll be a good thing. But does anybody else have any questions for Director Hernan?
Not so much a question, but I do agree. The marketing, I think the communication and whatever alternate formats we can start thinking of. And, you know, I know there's access to different Facebook groups that we use, because a lot of people go on the what's happening. I know in my area, Port Sydney Ederson, what's happening, you know, in those little more quainter towns have their little Facebook groups. And so you might get the word out a little more. I mean, obviously the ridership in Port Sydney Ederson isn't going to happen, but I'm just saying there are smaller little Facebook groups around that sometimes can spread the word and help us with that. And I think the other thing I'm hearing is to keep with the main stops, the bus drivers actually stopping, because if there isn't going to be the quote unquote a bus shelter, most people are sitting inside at the Walmart or whatever. So if it is kind of a blocked view and they can't see the bus driver coming, they know that the bus driver is for sure waiting a few minutes outside of Walmart for that senior person to get their walker and get out the door possibly, and have some time to do that.
Commissioner Gallagher.
On the marketing end of things, again, with all these apartments that are going up there, that might be a good place for some brochures and some signage on the lobby doors, because again, once that's out in front and center, people know it, they'll read it, and hopefully they'll use the bus.
Perfect.
And I would follow up on John's. I mean, again, if you could ask for the stars, we did approve a system, but if we could get a system that would be something that somebody could track, it would be a great accessible option, I think, too.
GPS stuff.
Yeah, I think that would be one of our top fives if it were, probably the last of our top fives, but it would be, because I know Director Hernan, when you had mentioned the idea of the audible signals, the new crosswalk, and being able to program your phone so that it can tell you when the signal's happening. For people with disabilities to have that ability to use their smartphone to be able to help them navigate their community is definitely an asset.
I'm just typing up something for Crystal for a resolution.
Okay, that's I was going to ask. Do we have a resolution? I see Crystal's got her hand up.
I do. I have been taking some notes. So Director Hernan, I do have some notes here. I'd be happy to bring my screen up and we can kind of craft it, or if you want to send me something, whatever would be easier.
Just give me 2 minutes and I'll email it to you and then you can clean it up. I don't want everybody to see how bad of a speller I am when I'm typing quickly.
I do have the 6 items. Right now I have 6 items outlined. Did you want me to bring it up?
Go ahead and I can add my notes, and then maybe we can craft something together if that's acceptable to Chair Armour and the committee members.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. I will do that now.
We've talked about a lot of different things here, so we want to make sure we get this right.
If I could just make some comments, and just my comments. So the first one I had down, which I don't see on yours, is extend the existing bus route system to include Chaffey Township Road and the new developments out Highway 60.
Yeah.
And we can really clean that up and craft it. But what we're saying is we already know we can extend it at no additional cost to the municipality, so we should make those changes, is what I heard.
Yep, absolutely.
The second one that I took, which is the first you've got here, extend the hours of the regular system till 10 p.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings. I put in on a pilot program. And then I'll be honest, and if the two council members would close their ears for a minute, sometimes it's easier to sell council on a pilot program because they understand that it gives them a chance to see the reception of it before they commit full time to it.
No, I absolutely agree with that. We're just in the wrong, hopefully we can get the ridership picked up because people aren't going anywhere yet with COVID. So hopefully that we can run this right into the spring when things are cleaning up a little bit.
I would add the word aggressive in front of marketing and communication. That way it's stressed to staff that this has got to be an aggressive marketing communication plan to educate the public. Ridership groups on the town's bus system. And then I would probably take the dial-a-ride and the flag system out of there because that's all part of the marketing education. I would try and there again, just my suggestions. That whole dedicated bus stop, I think that's all part of the marketing. If I'm wrong and if I'm speaking out of turn, please stop me.
No, I think that's something we put all in the marketing part because I think we already have dedicated bus stops. It's just the bus doesn't stop if no one's standing there, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think as Kay pointed out to us, you know, people with sight problems, we've got to recognize and let them know that they can call the bus.
Right.
So the bus driver's looking for them. They're not trying to, they don't have to stand out in the cold. They've got the opportunity to stand in where it's warm like everyone else. And the bus driver knows that, okay, when I get here, I got to pull up front and honk the horn and let them know I'm here.
Okay, so you want me to remove number 4?
I think it's all part of number 3. And then I would just sort of implement a GPS tracking system. I had down continue to investigate the implementation of a modernized transit fare and information system. Says the same sort of thing. It's more than just tracking. We want to get that information out to the ridership. Where is the bus at any one given time?
Okay.
I'll be quiet. I'm not on the committee, so I shouldn't be talking so much. The dirty look from John.
Committee member Shaw.
So I just want to make sure the one where the bus is extended, the regular bus is extended, that it would also include, the same as Saturdays, that bus would also pick up people who needed the accessible spot, right? Who needed a wheelchair, whatever.
So if we're extending the service, it's got to be able to pick up everybody.
Yes.
I understand that. Yes.
Okay.
Committee member Gallagher, go ahead.
We also add Highview Drive after Chaffey Township Road so that we know that's a loop going through there.
Good one. Yeah.
And why don't you add Campus Trail? That way it's clear. Campus Trail, Chaffey Township Road, Highview Drive, Highway 60.
Silence. So how's that sound to everybody? At least we got something on paper. I think we've been kicking this transit unit around long enough that we finally get something concrete that we can take to council and get some approvals and move ahead on this.
One last thing I'll just throw out, and then I will shut up. You might want to throw one other point in there, is that catch-all that staff be directed to continue to monitor ridership, transit use, report back to council on a regular basis, and look for ways to improve the service. Sort of says that here's our
Yes.
4 main points, but we also want you to continue to look to improve the service.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Not ruling anything out.
No. Transit's always been a moving target, so it's hard to hit. Go ahead, Crystal.
If I could just ask Director Hernan just to send me the wording of that last item that you had noted, not the one just now, but in regards to the GPS, the tracking system. Thank you.
I just emailed it to you, Crystal. It's just the bottom one on that. You might want to clean that up.
Well, I know I'd like to thank you, Director Hernan, for all your valuable input into this and getting the wording down for us on this motion. It's nice to have the support going forward, for sure.
Can I put
Councilor
Director
Schumacher? Yeah,
Hernan, can I put Director Hernan on the spot since we have him?
absolutely.
So I've had a couple comments. I mean, streetscape and everything has looked great, but outside the Friendly Fox, it kind of does a bit of a grade, and I believe that was to try to meet the doorway. Is that correct? But I know it's created a bit more of a grade than the sidewalk used to have. So someone in a wheelchair may find that a little bit hard to navigate. There is a corner of the step that is still there, and I'm assuming we're going to paint that yellow or some sort of way to flag it so that people know that there is a bit of a step down there. But yeah, can you just sort of comment on it? Am I correct? Is that why that kind of bends that way now?
You're 100% correct. It's a steeper grade than we'd like to see. We made the decision to do that to eliminate the step into that building, the Friendly Fox. You are the first person to point that out to us. We've known about it, and we actually debated pulling them panels of the sidewalk back out, but then we'd be creating steps back into that store there. So we actually thought, let's let it run the winter. Let's see if it's a problem. And if it is, the way to fix that grade is we have to pull the panels back out, which we can do, but then we would be having steps into the building. And we were very fortunate to eliminate all but, I think it was 2 or 3 sets of steps along Main Street. But you are correct in that area. And if this committee feels it's an issue there that seriously needs to be looked at, we're aware of it and we're willing to do it. We looked at even placing some street furniture there to keep people away from the steep side. So some of the rocks that we've been placing, we've been having discussions as to whether we should be placing some of that. But if there is a grade there, and you are the first person to notice and bring it to our attention. So good for you, Councilor Schumacher.
Well, Lorraine actually brought it to my attention, so then I went and checked it out myself. But I was walking downtown with my mother for the end of November big market thing they had going on downtown, and my mother commented as well. But yeah, we did notice. I would say let's monitor it and see, and if anyone else comes to me, because I will get a lot of those calls. But Lorraine, I know she did have her hand up, so she may want to speak to it a little more.
Committee Member Blondin, go ahead. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
So what I found difficult in that spot, and someone approached me about it being difficult. So then I checked it out and then told Diane and she checked it out. So there's a few people that have come to this one point of telling you. I found that there was just no spot in that immediate area where my feet were level, but the 2 feet were level, like, because it was going downhill, but it was also going downhill on the side to the street itself. And I appreciate that you were trying to eliminate the step into the store. I do like the idea of street furniture or maybe the big rocks. And maybe a sign that just says steep grade, so that you just, if you're someone like me who might have difficulty walking on a good day, and especially on a bad day, that you're just aware that that's a bad spot. But I like the idea of maybe some street furniture there so that you had something to lean on if you started to lose balance, that there's something there already. And it would also prevent people from thinking that it was an easy walk to go from the door straight to the street. They would be more inclined to go up or down and find another place to go down to the street. Because I think that's where the problem is more going to the street itself.
And you've nailed it 100%. If you walk that sidewalk and you stay within 2.5, 3 feet of the building, you won't notice it. If you're out, I'm going to say 4 or 5 feet from the building, you're going to feel like you want to slip down to the curb, exactly what you described. And that's why we were thinking about placing some boulders there so that you would naturally walk around the boulders and it would push you up to the building. And if you wouldn't mind just doing me a favor, yourself and Councillor Schumacher, next time you're there, walk close to the building and then turn around and walk about 5 feet out from the building. And I think you'll probably quickly come back to me and say, yeah, you're right. The further you get from the building, the more you feel like you're about to fall into the line of traffic.
Exactly. So that's why I think your idea of boulders or furniture is a marvelous solution, so that you can still have an accessible access into the building itself.
Duly noted. I will make sure they're having the Main Street meeting right now. While I'm at this one, I will add that to the discussions. Thank you. And thanks for that input.
Good catch, everyone. Good catch. So Crystal, do you have something ready for us?
I sure do. So I will pull it up. It just requires a mover and seconder. And procedurally, because it's not on the agenda, it just does require 2/3 vote to pass. Yeah.
Okay, do I have a mover and a seconder? I see Committee Gallagher and Kay. Okay. So moved by John Gallagher, seconded by Kay Leslie. It is recommended that after reviewing the 2018 Town of Huntsville Transit Needs Assessment and Ridership Growth Plan, committee recommends the following items be prioritized to implemented by council. Extend the current bus route to Chaffey Township Road, Campus Trail, Highview Drive, and Highway 60. 2, extend hours of regular system until 10 p.m. on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday evenings on a pilot program and consider service on Sundays. Aggressive marketing communication plan to educate public, focus on main ridership groups, on the town bus system, continue to investigate the implementation of modernized fare information system for users, staff to be directed to continue to monitor ridership, use and report back to council on an ongoing basis in order to continue to improve the service. Now, I do have one question for Director Hernan. Do we have to have anything in here about discontinuing up Highway Muskoka Road 3 to Williamsport Road?
I would suggest no, because that would be our report to council that by extending it in this other area, we're going to drop the Muskoka 3.
Okay, excellent. Crystal, is your hand still up?
No, sorry.
Okay. So as read, all those in favor? And that motion carries. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Great discussion. Thank you, Director Hernan. Your inputs. Can't say how much your input the value of it is for us. So thanks very much.
And I want to thank the entire committee. It was a good discussion. Sometimes we have more of these discussions to make things go a lot easier. So thank you very much. And I'll leave you with a little teaser that make sure you watch committee tomorrow, because there's some talk about a pedestrian intersection being installed up at Chaffee, at Center and Haynes Road. So hopefully we'll see some lights up there, some additional sidewalks. I know something the committee's been looking for, and it should be coming to a fruition. And if all goes well, it'll be installed before July 1st. So thank you and have a good day. I really appreciate this.
Oh, very good. Thanks, everybody. That was good. So we're going to move on to site plans, John. So if you just want to shut your camera down. Perfect. So there was actually 4 site plans. One wasn't completed, the top coat painters one at 50 Menominee Street. So that'll be reported next meeting. 5.2 was the Frasher Holding Inc. at 65 Main Street, where they're looking at putting a multi-unit in there. 5.3 is the new Urban Retail Inc. southeast corner of Haynes Road and Center Street. That's the Paisley's place, where the they're proposing a new Fresco and a few other restaurants in that area. And 5.6 was the 46 Haynes Street. That's 15 townhouses at the Muskoka High Crest. So there's going to be 5 blocks, I believe, with 3 units in each block. Does anybody have any questions over those? I think we can thank these the Paisley place and the 46 Haynes Street one for what's happening at Center Street. And so, have any questions? I don't hear any. So let's move on to item 7, and that's the electric scooter update by Kay Leslie. Kay, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair Armour. I'll make this very brief, but I did receive an update on the e-scooter situation in Toronto by David Lepofsky, who is a blind lawyer and chair of the AODA. So if anyone wants further information, you could go to the AODA.org website. But at any rate, interestingly enough, council did vote to not implement a pilot in order to determine whether the e-scooters were indeed a great barrier to people with disabilities and seniors and children. So what they have done based on, I guess I should say, they did distinguish that renters evidently of e-scooters were indeed the most reckless and caused more accidents and tended not to adhere to the traffic rules and wear helmets and so on and be insured, whereas private owners were by the most part following, traffic rules and so on and safety guidelines. However, so they have indeed banned the use of e-scooters in sidewalks, bike paths, trails, etc., any public streets and sidewalks for the time being. Now, there was a little bit of a counter positioning in which indicated that by the year 2025, the estimated revenue from e-scooters, which I guess range from about $400 to $3,000, will be estimated at $29 billion. So there's going to be still a lot of sales. Now, I think at the end of the day, they're saying that whereas it seems pretty harsh to put a flat out ban on them forever, what they do hope to do is come up with some solutions that will ensure that safety is adhered to in all respects, and that people park them properly and so on. So and interestingly, the city of Montreal has also agreed not to, after a 2-month pilot, they agreed to ban e-scooters on public sidewalks and streets in Montreal. So that's the latest update. I'm sure this will be an ongoing debate, but for now, that is the situation. And interestingly, I guess it's a sign of our technological advancement, but there's also been, and I think I forwarded the brief to Crystal, but I can do that again. But with respect to robots, and they're referring to them as utility devices, micro utility devices, and sort of auto devices, such as robots and drones, that they too will be banned on sidewalks and streets in terms of, again, injuring or blocking people with disabilities or seniors or children. And I guess these are being used often for catering, for food deliveries and so on. And evidently there have been enough, episodes that have harmed people or frightened people, whatever. So they have been banned for now. And again, I'm sure that there will be ongoing debate. So I found that pretty interesting because we don't see that much here, or at least I certainly have not. But there, I guess, the traffic is pretty congested and the use of robots and drones are substantially greater. So that's my update. And again, I'm happy to forward any information from the website that David Lepofsky has been involved in, or also this latest, there was I think it was on CP24, there's a video. So again, happy to share that, but just that's the update.
Thank you very much for that, Kay. Does anybody have any questions of Kay? Not seen any, but we look forward to keeping us informed on what's happening with those, because we do, I think as the population grows around here, we're probably going to see more and more of that happening in our areas for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to move on to just number 8, general information, 801, council update. Dion went first last time, so I'll take it this time and then leave it with her. So we're still meeting remotely, as we all know, and there's lots of things happening around the town. I think just our past council meeting, we had some really good stuff come out. The Medill Church, you might have heard that council's moved $25,000 towards that to assist them with the renovations of that church, that they're hoping that they can eventually use it for some outdoor venues or weddings, etc. And they're hoping to have that all in place by the 150th anniversary coming up. We received $500,000 from FedNor for our streetscape, which is great to hear, and drops the amount of money we're putting in significantly. And we've dealt with some significant weather policies, etc. Dion, would you like to add some stuff that?
Yeah, I guess. Well, tomorrow is Bell Let's Talk Day, so we're doing our flag raising and everybody talk and text, and money supports to mental health. Definitely a good cause with everything going on with COVID. The land acknowledgement that we say at the beginning of every one of our council meetings now, we are in the works, and I don't know if it's officially come out, but I know the mayor had mentioned it at one of our meetings that we are looking at putting it on a boulder, and it will be going in the area where our new accessible pathway is, where we're going to have sort of those gardens off to the side. So and it has been looked at and approved. So that's going to be a great addition. Yeah, again, I mentioned a little bit, we're looking into, staff are going to come back to us with a we have sort of the sponsorship policy, but we've now included that to include a memorial bench policy for around town and for parks, and possibly we've opened it up to cemeteries or different aspects within the town. We do have the seat programs right now, of course, at the arena and at the theater where people can sponsor those seats, but we have had some requests for people with memorial funds wanting to, you know, have benches around town. So we're going to start looking at that as a policy. Staff will come back with some results around that. The BIA, they're having their AGM this coming Thursday if anyone would like to join. And downtown, they will be doing a sort of snow village ice sculptures along with the chamber coming up. Because we couldn't do Snowfest this year, they were hoping to do Snowfest, and of course we can't really do Snowfest this year. They will be trying to decorate the downtown in a bit of a snow village ice sculpture, and along with, as Chair Armour mentioned, the Medill Church Fund is trying to go for a heritage grant. The Chamber was successful in getting a $50,000 heritage grant in combination with Deerhurst. And Deerhurst will be celebrating its 125th anniversary this year. So they're going to take that heritage grant and create some opportunities for tourism and events and activities that will be out at Deerhurst this spring and summer that hopefully people can have an opportunity to attend. And yeah, it's been a busy little bit of time before Christmas and after.
Mm-hmm. I think that the AGM meeting, they moved, Jonathan came on and said it was going to be next month.
That's the chamber one, but the
that's the
BIA,
chamber one. Okay.
I believe Bob said the BIA is this Thursday.
Okay, maybe that's what's confusion. Yeah.
Yes.
But excellent. Does anybody have any questions of either of us? Okay, hearing none. Things are busy, so we're moving right ahead. We can imagine that 2022 is going to be, I can only imagine what the spring is going to bring for us. So everybody stay safe and stay warm. It's going to be really cold tonight, apparently, down to 30. So moved by Laura Shaw, seconded by Diane Lupton. It's recommended that we do now adjourn at 3:18. All in favor?